It's time to open the NFL six-pack mailbag, our 6 best questions for the week, including some intel on some trades that did not happen at the deadline and who's got the worst quarterback situation going into 2026 on today's NFL six-pack.
This is Locked On's NFL six-pack. 6 bold takes from 2 guys who just flat out know football. NFL experts Matt Williamson and Brian Peacock bring pure NFL talk. Great takes, no fluff, just honest football talk. Crack one open. It's NFL Six-Pack on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the NFL Six-Pack. Brian Peacock and Matt Williamson. Thanks to everybody getting those mailbag questions in this week, and apologies in advance the ones we don't get to. We always get a lot every single week, and you can always get them in for next week's mailbag, or maybe we'll hit some more mailbag questions throughout the week at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL on Twitter, or you can always drop a question in the YouTube comments and subscribe while you're there. And thanks once again to the everydayers out there that helped make us the #1 sports podcast network. And let's get into it because you've been called out directly, Matt. And
I hear, yeah.
This is a place to start in our mailbag for heading into week 11 here. And Joshua says, Brian, I don't know why Matt laughs it off when you say Mac Jones to the Steelers. Mac Jones is way better than Rodgers at this point, and I can totally see the Steelers organization making the kind of move with someone they have seen do it before, but can still be a long-term answer. So there's a lot to unpeel here.
Yeah.
If we're going to go down that direction, and I want to talk about some deals, maybe the Steelers and some other teams that's been reported tried to do but couldn't get done at the trade deadline, and how that would have shaken things up here. And the Steelers were one of those teams. But looking ahead at the Steelers quarterback situation, we teased it at the end of the last episode, Matt, because it might not be the best draft for the Steelers to take a first-round quarterback. And so that's why I think the veteran market might be the way to go for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the question becomes, where is Aaron Rodgers in all this? Is he even going to play? Is Aaron Rodgers even that good anymore, as Joey Bag of Donuts asked? Because he's thinking maybe even he's not the answer right now, let alone into the future.
Yeah. So I think we're at a little bit of a Rodgers 2025 crossroads in that this past game was far and away his worst. And the first one I would say was a bad game for the Steelers. Like, boy, he was bad in that game. You know, I wouldn't have said that for any other game thus far. Now, the immediate question is, he's 41 years old. He's almost 42. And the rigors of the season, the weather, recovery time, this is often when those guys really start to feel it, you know, and September, okay, I'm humming along pretty well, you know. And then, oh, man, I've taken a lot of hits, and it's hard to get out of bed on Monday. And, boy, I usually feel great by Wednesday, but I don't anymore. And, man, it's cold. You know, my body hurts, and I'm skinny and fragile. And I put together the Steelers stat packet, Matt Stats, every year or every week for the Steelers. And you can find it on Steelers.com when it's done. But his yards per attempt have dropped in each of the last 4 games. 7-3 to 6-1 to 5-8 to 5-2. So he's become less and less effective, or the Steeler passing game as a whole has become less and less effective every week now for 4 weeks straight. Fortunately, they play the worst defense in the league by a wide margin and the worst pass defense you'll ever see in Cincinnati. But maybe that'll be telling in that, man, he didn't even carve up those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. He seems to be getting along with Steelers. They seem to love him. And he's very impressive to be around. And a month ago, I would have leaned towards, I bet he comes back and does it one more year. But if this starts going south, or if his mind's already made up, he isn't. Or do you want him back? I mean, a month ago, I said, yeah, I want him back. And I'd love to have somebody sit under him like Jordan Love did for 1 year and learn all this stuff this guy knows, because he's so impressive from the neck up, and his work ethic and all that stuff is really, really impressive. But not if he can't play anymore, you know. Mm-hmm. And he's only making like $10 million. I mean, it's a very friendly contract and money situation.
Right. So so Mac Jones kind of intertwines throughout this.
Yeah, I want to talk more about that too.
We got to talk about the 2026 quarterback situations and the reclaimed careers of different quarterbacks and who might be out there, who might not be out there. Whether it's draft or veteran quarterbacks. Questions about Brock Purdy and if Mac could even take that job from Brock Purdy in San Francisco. We got to see the rest of this year play out for a lot of this too. But Steelers specifically tried to get Aaron Rodgers more help, right, at the trade deadline and weren't able to get a deal done for a wide receiver. They've been in the wide receiver market for, half a decade.
It's been well over a year. I mean, the Ayuk stuff was insane. That was last training camp, not this past one, 2 training camps ago.
Yes.
And they've been linked to every receiver in the world. People I trust really thought that the Steelers had a done deal at the deadline, and said team decided either not to pull the trigger. My hunch is that's Myers or Shaheed, and just the other teams gave more. But maybe I don't think this is true, but I'm just throwing out ideas. I mean, was it Waddle? And then all of a sudden Miami said, no, we're not trading him, but many times during this saga, including Ayuk, I have been told, oh, there's a deal in place. Like they traded for Christian Kirk and then he got hurt the next day. They did a deal on Saturday and then the next Sunday he got hurt, and I think that happened. Like, I think there's been some bad luck for the Steelers too, but are they just not offering enough,
Yeah, that's why players do not play a single second after teams agree to a trade because they don't want that to happen and for players to get hurt. You see it in baseball games all the time. A player leaves in the middle of the game around the trade deadline because he just got traded. It's like, you can't stay out there and get hurt after this deal has been consummated. And it's funny that actually happened with Christian Kirk, and then all of a sudden the deal can't be done. And you bring up Jalen Waddle because Tom Pelissero dropped a bomb here post-trade deadline that the Buffalo Bills offered a 2027 first-round pick as part of a trade package for Jalen Waddle, and the Dolphins turned it down because they wanted that pick to be in 2026, and it's thought that the price was a first and a third potentially for Jalen Waddle, who nearly became a Buffalo Bill. Do you think that the Bills screwed up by not allowing their 26 first to be involved? Do you think the Dolphins screwed up by not taking the package of a 2027 first for Jalen Waddle?
I kind of think they both screwed up. I mean, I would overpay for Waddle if I were the Bills right now. And I don't even think that's a massive overpay, especially if it's going to be a late first this year, which doesn't look like an awesome draft class. Next year's draft class, everyone's raving about, but everyone always does. Not just quarterbacks, but across the board. In the fact that you take him off division rival doesn't really move the needle for me that much. But the Bills have been looking for that guy forever. I would have definitely given up this year's first for Waddle if I'm Buffalo. If the real deal was a third this year, that's what I read, a third this year and a 27 first, I would have taken that if I was Miami. Yeah. So I think they both screwed up.
And for you and I sitting there watching football on Sundays, we lost too because we didn't get to see Waddle with Josh Allen in Buffalo, which I think would have been a lot of fun and something they absolutely needed. And I wonder if maybe the Steelers were in on that bidding as well and couldn't come up with enough. But I do think the Steelers are going to be a fun team this offseason because a lot of movement could potentially happen. Buffalo Bills are in a situation where they need a player who can win on the outside because they've got so many players that are good over the middle of the field. And I think that's where Coleman should play. And you've already got Shakir, who's really good there and a good yards after catch receiver. And you have Dalton Kincaid, who's playing really banged up throughout his career. So I haven't really, unfortunately, seen what that I think could potentially have been with Josh Allen, and it still could be there, but that's kind of the woobie over the middle of the field too. And they need someone with speed that can win outside and win on routes outside. And they just don't really have that. And it was really clear. And I didn't think Coleman was a great fit to begin with in that regard. And so
I know
that's something that still needs to be addressed for Buffalo. And who knows, maybe the price drops and now it's like, okay, well, still offering the same for Waddle, but minus that 2026 third. Now do you want to do it? And so maybe they can get a deal done.
They're kind of like the Steelers, where they've been linked forever. Like they just 1 year ago, they gave up a third for Amari Cooper at the trade deadline, which is a big trade deadline deal. Giving up a third is a big deal. So let me throw one at you because the guys that I did Locked On Dynasty with, Marcus and Fabs, threw this out there. We were talking about like Travis Hunter's injury and his, what his future is and his dynasty value. And we kind of came to the conclusion that I bet he's a full-time receiver next year. Parker Washington could emerge. I don't think it'd be hard to bring back Jacoby Myers. Brenton Strange got a lot of targets thrown his way. Denami Brown's on the roster. What about Brian Thomas to the Bills?
Would absolutely love it.
I would love it for player and team and everybody involved. Right. And the Jags don't have a first because the Hunter deal, they could get back in the, you know what I mean?
That's a good angle of it where the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to look at this thing and be like, okay, we need to get back into this. And that's a fantastic fit.
I love it. I mean, that's exactly what they need. Big, strong, fast, outside the numbers. He doesn't fit Liam Cohen's over the middle stuff.
And watching Allen have that weapon and they can both potentially really flourish. Best spot for
all of us fans that don't have a horse in the race would love it. Right.
Waddle has a better resume right now, but the fit I think would be even better with Brian.
Thomas costs less against a cap too, and
right. And that might be a thing where the Bills, who are drafting late in the first round, say to themselves, instead of trying to draft and develop this thing again, we can get a rookie contract guy still with that first round pick.
Yeah, just throw him go balls.
Next, more on Mac Jones. What's going on in San Francisco with Brock Purdy potentially coming back? Is that done that Purdy's the one and Mac is now going to be the backup? And who has the worst quarterback situation? And who's the next quarterback to be reclaimed? A lot quarterback-centric episode of this NFL Mailbag next. Today's episode of the NFL Six Pack brought to you by Supply House. And when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, you got to get your crew moving forward with Supply House, because when you order today, you can see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. And we're talking about over 280,000 of those parts, whether it's plumbing, HVAC, electrical, items from the most trusted brands in the business. In their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. And Trademaster perks. How about this? Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Just visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That is SH like Supply House, NFL5 for 5% off your first order at supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. This episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. And man, Prize Picks couldn't be simpler, and Prize Picks couldn't be more fun if you want to have a little bit of more fun on your Sundays, or really every day that there's an NFL or NBA game or both. And we make decisions every day, right? But on Prize Picks, being right actually gets you paid. So don't miss any of the excitement with NFL, NBA, and there's no better time to jump in on the action than right now at Prize Picks. And if you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. All you do is you pick more or less on at least 2 player stat projections on the Prize Picks app. And if you hit them right, you win. It's that easy. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup. You can make multiple lineups, different combinations of players, and play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup at Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Keeping a mailbag going here on the NFL Six Pack. And who has the worst quarterback situation going into the 2026 season? And I swear this is not a Steelers question, but I think the Steelers might also be a part of this question. It might have been why this question was asked. And the question, I think
it might be Pittsburgh.
do you think it is Pittsburgh?
You definitely look at teams like that don't really have one. I mean, the Browns, those type of teams, they're bad. They don't have a quarterback. But if we're talking about situation, Browns have 2 first-round picks. I mean, They could get the one if they want.
Ability to go procure the thing that you need. And Josiah asked, and the way he asks it, it really takes me to a certain direction with this too, because he says it seems like more and more teams need a quarterback and less college prospects are stepping up to fill those draft slots. Who is the worst quarterback situation for next year? And part of that also is there's fewer, because every year what happens is you get to September and you get post-draft and in the summer, and everyone's excited about their new quarterback, whether it was a free agent addition or they traded for somebody or they drafted somebody, and everyone thinks they got a good starting quarterback. You're like, man, there's actually too many starting quarterbacks than there are teams, And then you get to October, November, and you're like, oh, there's still only 20 starting quarterbacks in the NFL again, just like there was last year, because 10 or 12 of those guys that we thought were starting quarterbacks haven't looked like it so far this year. So that's another thing that happens. And so where do you fill those? And maybe you talk yourself into some things because you really need it that much. And maybe you force some draft prospects or you force a veteran into a spot where you think he's going to be okay. And he's really not for you. But it's a great point about the Steelers that I didn't think of it this way, is that when you're going to be drafting, if you're potentially a playoff team, you're drafting in the 20s. So it's harder to get that first round quarterback. Maybe you've got a lot of expenditures, so you can't really overpay for a quarterback either on the free agent market. And it's not like starting quarterbacks are just sitting there in the free agent market all that often. So how do you go get your quarterback? That's a great question.
So starting with the Steelers, they have a first, a second, the Cowboys third, their own third, and a ton of comp picks coming for Russell Wilson, Najee Harris, et cetera, Dan Moore, all these guys. So they're a lot of mid-round picks. And I've been under the assumption or the time, that this, and I've said this over and over, I think this was the year they've earmarked to go get a quarterback. The draft happens to be in Pittsburgh, but that's not why they do it, but that'd make it cooler, blah, blah, blah. So almost every week on the show, on my Steelers show, or every other week or so, we kind of do go around the league and be like, what's the supply and demand of quarterbacks right now? And it keeps getting worse and worse for the Steelers in terms of being able to get that guy. And there were a handful of teams that early in the year, I'm like, maybe they'll be in the quarterback market, maybe they won't. Arizona, Miami, Carolina. I think more and more they all lean towards yes, or at least some version of yes, especially Arizona, considering where they were from the beginning of the year. Now, I don't think teams like Atlanta or Denver, or I don't know about Minnesota, are willing to move off their young guy yet, but maybe Minnesota would add something and steal something out of the mix. Now, the only real good team that I thought was quarterback shopping, and it'll be drafting probably, is the Rams. Like teams that are definitely picked probably later in the first round than Pittsburgh is the Rams, but they have 2 first-round picks. Steelers don't have 2 first-round picks. Third-round picks don't get you real far from 20 to 5 in the draft. 2 firsts do.
And the Rams have an opportunity to be patient. So they could say, the right prospect wasn't there in the first round. Let's see if we can draft and develop this third-round guy that we actually like a lot.
Unless Stafford says, I won the Super Bowl and I'm going to retire and right off the sunset, or gets hurt again or something. Right.
So that scenario.
And then all the other teams are stinky. They're all the Raiders and Browns and, teams that are picking high.
So that scenario is what brings me to Mac Jones.
Right.
And the Steelers, and why I like that fit. And
I've always just assumed it has to be the draft or bust.
Yes.
Because I'm so sick of Trubisky and Russell Wilson. And
it's funny because there were so many bad retread quarterbacks throughout the years that you would have, if you asked me 2 years ago, it would be like, yeah, that guy, that's not the way to go about it. But
now they're working out.
Yeah, you're starting to see Sam Darnold and especially these first round pedigree quarterbacks and Daniel Jones. And it's like, oh man, actually, if you just get these guys in a good organization, they can actually still be pretty good. And Baker Mayfield. And is Mac Jones that? And
he's kind of proving to be as we speak, as you know better than anyone.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, shocking that Kyle Shanahan calling the plays for you is better than a defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, calling your plays all of a sudden in New England. Like, what the heck was that? And that's why Mac Jones chose the 49ers. And here's the wrinkle in all this is that unlike the Darnold thing, Jones signed a 2-year contract with the 49ers. So he's still under contract next year with the 49ers. And I think that was part of the 49ers saying, well, look, this thing happened with Sam Darnold, and he ended up against us now in the NFC West. So we'll sign you, and you can go through the Kyle Shanahan rehab program, but we need you to do a 2-year contract. And Mac Jones wanted to be coached well so bad that he said okay to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if the 49ers, with that control, would value having him as a backup more, or will a team be willing to pay the price that it would cost to outbid the value of having a good backup quarterback in Mac Jones, because they still have a starter in Brock Purdy. We'll get into more of that in a second. And would they want to have the control of saying, well, let's trade him to the Steelers. Let's trade him to the AFC, because first of all, do right by Mac. Mac's like, I don't want to go play for the Jets or the Browns.
Right.
I'd love to go to an organization like the Steelers. And the 49ers are like, you know what? And I would rather send you to the Steelers than for Matthew Stafford to retire after 2026, and then you go sign with the Rams. And now we just help the Rams and the Seahawks get better young quarterbacks. And so I think a lot of that really starts to make sense for the player, the organization, how this could all go down in the offseason for Mac Jones and the Steelers to be a really nice fit.
I'm warming up to that possibility or something along those lines, because first off, I would say Mac will probably be better with Shanahan than he would be with Arthur Smith and the Steelers. Right. But he could be the best thing you could get, or, still give you the best chance to win while Cam Hayward's still on the team and blah, blah, blah. But frankly, people around here are pretty sick of winning 9 games and getting blown out in the playoffs by to Lamar or Allen. Like, everyone, which will bring us to the tanking rebuild stuff. Like, people want them to either win it all now or bottom out, get the first pick of the draft, and they never pick at the top and go get a guy with immense tools, that might be able to be Josh Allen, which I 100% understand. But if the supply demand situation is a problem, which it sure looks to be, extra third round picks from comps and Pickens and those type of things can get you Mac Jones a heck of a lot easier than they can get you to the 5th pick in the draft to take the second quarterback, Mm-hmm. So I'm open to it.
Okay. Coming around. It didn't take long. We only took one extra mailbag to bring Matt all the way around in one bad performance from Aaron Rodgers. Last note on that, Rodgers 2026, think he plays?
Yes.
Would you be like, that's the plan for the Steelers?
Again, this is a crucial, it's crossroads time for Aaron Rodgers for me. Yeah.
Be decided in the final 7 weeks of the season.
I liked it a lot better 2 weeks ago than I do now.
We got a question about short quarterbacks, and a couple of those might be available in the offseason as well to bring this full circle. And are we sure Jackson Dart is already anointed as the guy for the New York Giants? Next. Today's edition of the NFL Six Pack brought to you by BetterHelp Online Therapy. And the days, they're getting shorter. As fall becomes winter, nights come earlier, and it can start to feel a little heavier for a lot of folks, especially when life is already packed with work, family, and everything else. So this season, it's so important. Reach out and check in with friends, family, and especially yourself, just like checking in on a teammate or reconnecting with an old friend, someone you haven't seen in a while. It can lift your spirits. It can lift their spirits. Reaching out for therapy can make a real difference too. And BetterHelp makes the first step easier by connecting you with a licensed therapist online from wherever you are. And all it just takes is a few minutes. Even one call, one conversation can help and can get you through the toughest seasons. And over 5 million people have used BetterHelp already. And with 30,000 therapists available, finding support really is just a few clicks away. So this month, don't wait to reach out. Whether it's checking in on a friend or yourself, BetterHelp makes it simple to take that first step. And listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon, because taking that step forward to support might be just the thing that leaves you wondering, why didn't I do this sooner? So it'll be hard for the Pittsburgh Steelers to send a day 2 pick for Mac Jones when they send a day 2 pick to the Chicago Bears for DJ Moore too. So
I like that too. Yep.
And then maybe they have to move out of the first round to recoup those extra picks and send their entire day 2 for another quarterback and a wide receiver. Most selfishly, because I can't wait to see Luther Burden, who is top 5, I think, right now in the NFL in yards per route run. He's going to be fun, I think, in Ben Johnson's offense. And I would really love the fit with DJ Moore in Pittsburgh. Can they afford it? Can they send draft picks everywhere? I'm just trying to fix the Pittsburgh Steelers today by sending away draft picks, Matt. They weren't able to do any deals at the deadline.
I don't have any problem with it, except for all of a sudden they're getting a lot of age on this team. I mean, it's an old defense. It's an old roster. Some of that's because your quarterback's 41 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind a draft just loaded with 3rd and 4th round picks to just get young, but and maybe take a 2nd round wide out, whatever. But DJ Moore's a name I've thrown out there plenty. And maybe it's not, well, it won't happen this year, but I could definitely see him being on the move if I'm the Bears. I mean, that's doesn't matter where he lands. So, I mean, if I'm the Bears, I think he's an easy trade candidate.
Yep, absolutely. I think he'll be on the move. So DJ Moore to Pittsburgh, Brian Thomas Jr. to Buffalo. Glad we got those things figured out before we even hit the new year in 2026. To answer the question about Brock Purdy versus Mac Jones for a second, why I think 100% Mac Jones will be available in the offseason, and I laid out some of that right there, but it was George Kittle who said that he was asked about Purdy when Purdy was hurt a couple weeks ago, and we have a question from Scott here. It says, if Brock Purdy starts but is rusty and struggles, do you have him on a short leash or play him and knock off the rust? Brock Purdy is unquestioned in the building, the starting quarterback. He is QB1. Mac Jones is QB2, period. If Brock Purdy comes out and plays an extended amount of time and just falls flat on his face and looks really bad, and Mac Jones just looks flat out better, maybe we could have a different conversation, and the conversation becomes, how much are you paying one guy versus the other?
Mm-hmm.
But as we know, you name one guy a starter, now he wants a new contract and wants more money too. So there's that part of it. You're going to pay a starting quarterback a lot of money when they're a free agent in the NFL. Brock Purdy's the number one. George Kittle said it best. He said, Brock Purdy's the best operator of an offense that I've ever seen, that I've been around. And so that's where Brock Purdy's value is. And Mac Jones has done a really good job, but the 49ers believe in Brock Purdy. They just paid him. Brock Purdy's the number one quarterback. It would have to be catastrophic for him to lose that job and Mac Jones to really save the day and
I would think
look amazing. So
and I can't picture that being. I mean, there's little proof to say it would be catastrophic.
Right. And so the question becomes, does a team pay whatever the value is of having a good backup quarterback in 2026? Is a team willing to pay that for Mac Jones? And I think the Niners will do right by Mac Jones and not send him to the Browns, probably.
Yeah.
Jackson Dart. Are we 100% positive, Michael asks, that we've seen enough from Dart that he is clearly the guy for the next head coach in New York?
I'm not, but Giants ownership is, and that's all that matters.
I don't know where you would go. I think we've seen plenty that you would be insane to think that he's not the guy going forward.
Oh, you at least got to try it. I mean, I'm not saying like I would. When I say I'm not sure, I'm not saying he would be my pick to be the next star in the league. I want to see more. Like, I think he's closer to McCarthy than he is May.
So, so two different things. One thing is, have you seen enough that he's the plan for you? Like, by far the easy number one plan for the New York Giants? Yes.
1,000%. Yes. Yeah.
Are you sure that he's a superstar quarterback? Yeah, definitely.
Not yet. Right.
We need to see a lot more from Jackson.
Absolutely. A friend of mine asked me, he said, boy, that Giant job's attractive. They have the best quarterback situation in that division. And I said, I think they have the worst quarterback situation in that division. It's not better than Jaden Daniels. I mean, if we're talking about age, money, all those things, I mean, it still would be fourth for me.
Matt, do you still hate short quarterbacks? You've been accused of having a bias. He says, I know, Matt, I know you despise small quarterbacks, but let's have a discussion. Kyler Murray, Bryce Young, are they among the top 32 quarterbacks in the league? We talked about Mac Jones already. Kyler Murray, what about Bryce Young as potential quarterbacks available for teams that are not of the rookie variety in the 2026 offseason?
I don't think Kyler will be a Cardinal, but I think he'll be a starter somewhere else. And I do think he still is in the top 32 for sure.
Yeah, top 32.
I don't think Young would beat I don't have a list. I don't think he'd be in my top 32. And at best, I think he's competing for a starting job next year, probably in Carolina. Maybe against Mac Jones.
I think Bryce Young has to go I'm signing somewhere to be a backup and rehab my image route. Sooner
than later, especially as soon as his contract's up. Yeah.
And Kyler Murray, pending Mac Jones and maybe some other names that could be available. Kyler Murray's like, oh, if we need a starting quarterback today, right now, he'll be the number one name on the list for guys to be traded for. And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a Steelers conversation. New York Jets, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Jets would prefer Kyler Murray over Justin Fields, but are they going to go to the draft for that? They've got extra draft picks now to work with and to do whatever plan they want. Maybe in Cleveland, but again, they're going to be drafting high. And did they go to the draft for that? So it's going to be Kyler Murray's a fascinating one because he'll be available.
Raiders.
He should be available. Yeah. There are some fits I like, but the kind of the bad teams where how is that going to go great for Kyler Murray if he just goes to a bad football team? Yeah. Are the Raiders going to move off of Geno that quickly?
I don't think Geno will be their starter next year, or at least he'll be the caretaker for a rookie move.
How great does that move look for the Seattle Seahawks right now? Because there was
How
a lot
smart
of
they look,
questions.
yeah.
A lot of people were flat out like, Geno's a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. What are the Seahawks doing? The Seahawks came out way on top.
Way on top. And they got extra picks, and they also got an extra second for Metcalf. And I mean, like, I'm not sure that they'd be better or worse. I'm not saying they'd be better without Metcalf, but I'm just saying the quarterback situation and everything they touched this offseason turned to gold.
Choose. So I just got to get your opinion now. All right. So we've talked about it. We've talked about a lot of players that might be available. There's the Fernando Mendoza. There's Ty Simpson in the draft. Maybe another draft quarterback, Matt. And I know you haven't done a lot of draft work.
I've done more than usual just on quarterbacks because of Steelers stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Let's end here. This is my question to you. Who is the Steelers QB1 in 2026?
Wow. People around here think it's Will Howard, by the way, who was activated today off IR.
Okay.
I mean, he was a 6th-round pick. I mean,
he's the number 2 or the number 3?
Rudolph's on a 2-year deal.
Okay.
I could see Rudolph being the opening day starter.
Oh, in a draft
as a total caretaker with a rookie and
Yeah.
Howard fighting it out or something like that. I'm going to go Rodgers if I have to put a chip down. I bet that's Vegas odds highest.
Building odds for who the quarterback is, it's the incumbent. I think you have to go that route.
I would love for a 1st-round pick to learn from Rodgers.
Is Rodgers
super? What's that?
Is it a 2-year deal? Rodgers?
He's on a 1-year deal, and he even when he signed it, he says this is probably the end for me. But I don't know if I had to pick.
Okay, so let's say Rodgers retires. Who's the quarterback? What name would you throw out there? Kyler Murray?
No, I'll tell you something off the air. It won't be Kyler Murray.
It's not even fit for air. Oh my God. Okay.
It's not that he's a terrible. I mean, I'm not slandering the guy at all, but I will bet everything I have Kyler Murray is not the Steelers starter next year.
Interesting. Okay. Well, Mac Jones it is. We got that figured out too. We're figuring out a lot in this 2026 offseason already.
Throw to DJ Moore.
It's only November. Thanks everybody for your questions. Get those in next week at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL in the YouTube comments. Drop them there and make sure you subscribe. And thanks once again for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network.